Oi, oi, alright, how's it going? I'm Grant, you're you. This is Doodle Review, coming through with a new album 2, which I've given a spin. I'm going to chat some faff about, and then I'm going to assign a score to it, which will either satisfy or burn a hole in your soul with rage. And we will all then move on. Today, it's Yard Act and the album Where's My Utopia. Yard Act is a post-punk-ish outfit from Leeds in the UK. I say ish because on this, their second album, the band pushes that post-punk aesthetic in all sorts of directions, but most consistently towards a kind of post-disco pop hip-hop hybrid. There's going to be a lot of me skewering various accurate or inaccurate subgenre labels to try and explain what the hell this band sounds like. So let's just start off with a few similar artists as a reference point. I'd say if you're new to Yard Act and you want some comparisons, or certainly to this album, I'd think Baxter Jury, Gorillaz and The Voids, the second Voids album. Equally, if you like Yard Act and haven't heard of them lot, such hidden underground bands like Gorillaz, I'm really opening the gate there for you. But anyway, that's where you should go next if you like this album. When Yard Act first popped up in 2022, I strategically took the decision to give them a bit of a wide berth, to be honest, because at the end of the day, there is so much bloody post-punk coming out these days. Every time I get wind of a new band in the space, I'm just always a bit like, can I really be asked with another one? Sometimes I feel like maybe letting an artist drop their first album and seeing if they stick around long enough for a second is like a good litmus test. The trouble is, when the second album comes out and it's as much of a banger as this one is, I start getting like FOMO in reverse. I wasn't as early on these guys as I could have been. On the flip side, I jumped all over Bar Italia after the hype on that band, and I could have absolutely spared myself the time on that one. So the strategy is right. I'm obviously just calling my shots wrong. But I digress. With Where's My Utopia, I finally understood enough to know that these guys were good, but still really didn't know what to expect, or actually, that's wrong. I thought I did. I put it on expecting a bloke shouting about the ever-inflating price of vegetables in Tesco's because the government over angular guitars. Instead, I got blown away on the very first track by this kitchen sink fusion of genres that sound fresh but familiar, artsy but catchy, snarky but friendly. The track itself, called An Illusion, is quite hard to describe. It opens with this mischievous bass line doubled by the guitar, backing the spoken words of James Smith, before breaking into this airy cloud of string and flute samples, then an emotional arpeggiated guitar refrain, the occasional drop into this muddy, filtered, very 70s soul and funk section, and ending back with the fluffy, emotional guitar chords, and finally this beautiful chamber pop ending. It's barely over 3.5 minutes, and it takes you through all of these styles, and it just works. Part of me thinks Yard Act managed to pull this off by really leaning on a kind of early 80s hip-hop approach of splicing records together and not necessarily trying to hide the seams, making the fusion of different genres the thing, rather than trying to outsmart it. The samples and little interludes throughout the record certainly signify this genre is on the group's radar, and tracks like Down by the Stream, with its kettle whistle intro and turntable scratches, give an outright kind of like nod to it. One of my favourite aspects of the record is the guitar, and for those that haven't heard the band, the guitar is far from the central component of the instrumentals here, but the restrained, tasteful use of it here by Sam Shipstone uses an obtuse, weird kind of phrasing that reminds me of Tom Waits' collaborator Mark Ribot, and it adds a perfectly odd texture to the unusual patchwork of influences we've just spoken about. It's like the icing on the cake for me. Vocally, yes, James Smith certainly is doing the whole spoken word kind of rapping, occasionally singing, sometimes just chatting, and every now and again ranting. Something that's a well-trodden path in post-punk, but lyrically he manages to skewer the same expectations he plays into, rather than trying to distill societal commentary into purposefully heavy-handed slogans like, say, Idols. No, saying that with no shade, it works for them, but Smith with the Yard Act is happy to kind of over-explain, over-analyse and talk existentially, and do that in a way that still comes off down to earth, approachable and above all entertaining. I can't really pull out any tracks I don't like or anything I'd particularly criticise, although the record's a little long in the middle and it could be a bit choppier at points, especially to make room for the expansive spoken word highlight Blackpool illuminations that you definitely wouldn't want to cut. But really that's a minor note. I'm actually going to hit this one with an 8.8 and knock it on the head. That's what I think. What do you think? What do you reckon? Let me know in the comments what you think about the album. Check the description for reviews and videos of similar artists, and if you find yourself doing all that, then you may as well subscribe. That's it. Subscribe, share some thoughts, show some love, or just have some abuse in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, mate. Bye.